First of all, if we can get your reaction to those pictures of Mark Field from last night's Mansion House dinner. Are you comfortable with the footage that we've seen this morning?
Well, good morning as well. Thank you for having me on. I've seen it very briefly this morning, just on the way here. I have to say, when you first look at it, I can understand why people would be concerned at what they've seen. It's very hard to defend the images that we've seen. However, and I just need to be very clear about this, Mark has referred himself to the Cabinet Office investigation process. I've already spoken on the way here this morning to our Chief Whip, and there will be an investigation from our side. So I won't be commenting any further until we let those investigations that will look at the full details, get a proper understanding of the situation that they were in. Bearing in mind, Mark has already made a statement around what he saw as a security risk there. And I think it's right that we let that investigation go forward and come to a conclusion.
There are going to be questions asked, aren't there, though? There's already a furious debate going on as to whether it was assault, calls for his resignation. Of course, it's within the climate of concerns over MPs and Cabinet Ministers' safety. And Jeremy Hunt, on his first day of campaigning, is going to have to address them as his boss, and presumably Boris Johnson will do, too.
Well, this is the point I'm making. I think one of the things we've got to get an understanding of that investigation will look into is the situation regarding the security, if there should have been a need for security at the event, how an individual, in this case obviously Mark, then dealt with the situation as he saw it, and whether that was appropriate. And as I say, I fully understand that when you look at that video, it's very hard for anybody to look at that and not be astonished at what they have seen.
It's not a good look for the party you're chairman of, though, is it?
Not at all. Look, I would rather we'd be focusing on this morning what's going to be happening over the next few weeks. The next few weeks, I'm looking forward to seeing a really good, positive contest and campaign with our two fantastic candidates out there putting forward their positive ideas and vision for Britain in the future, and actually therefore asking our members to vote for them and the ideas that they have got. And through that process, and at the end of it, our party's coming together as one family to make sure that we are delivering for people right across the United Kingdom.
Brandon, two fantastic candidates, but we're led to believe that one of them particularly and his team around him have controlled the vote from start to finish, and the dark arts were in action in terms of getting Michael Gove out of the race, so it would be Jeremy Hunt that Boris Johnson would be facing. What's your reaction to the idea that the vote has been rigged or controlled by Boris Johnson's team because he is so far ahead that they can afford to palm off votes to a few of the other candidates to control who would be facing in the last two?
Well, I think we're all sometimes a bit tempted by conspiracy theories. And my experience, I've been neutral through this process. I have to be in my role as chairman. But my experience from past leadership contests is when you're in a democracy and when you're looking to win a vote, what you tend to focus on is winning as many votes as you possibly can. I suspect all the candidates and their teams have been focused on winning all the votes that they can to ensure that they end up in that final two. And that work will now continue with our members across the country.
It must be a concern for you. I mean, I know you're like a dad who can't choose between their children. That's your position. You have to have no favourite child. But the process must be a concern for you, because there are calls for a reform of how a leader of the Tory party is elected. There's been some reform and never used to be open to members at all. But, you know, there must be concern about the process for you as the chairman.
Actually, no, I'm very comfortable with the process. I'm actually very proud of the structure we've put together.
You must be concerned about potential skullduggery in the process.
Well, no, I'm not actually. I think we have a postal ballot that goes to people that people will then send back, and that's our members right across the country. We're going to have a series of hustings which people will be able to see. Your viewers will be able to see some of those hustings as well. And in fact, next week there'll be a live online hustings that people can take part in and see as well. So I think we've got a really good process. It's going to be a very clear and transparent process. And I think we'll see both our candidates putting forward a really good, positive vision for what they want to do for the country.
Yeah, you're
and
talking
I think our
about
members
the
will
vote
engage
to
with that.
come and the choice between two candidates that the MPs have selected. You must have some interest in the process of how we've ended up with those two people that are going to be selected from, aren't you? You must have some concern. And there is accusations that this has not been done fairly, that the vote has been changed by handing over votes. And controlled, yeah.
Well, look, over the last couple of weeks, first of all, members of Parliament, I think, are very capable of deciding how they're going to vote. My experience of being in these processes is each of the teams will have been looking to get the maximum votes. And I think sometimes we can get a bit carried away with conspiracy theories. And actually, it is right that parliamentarians in our parliamentary party take a view over who is the best person for them, because ultimately, whoever wins this contest has to command the confidence of members of parliament as well. And that's what the process over the last few weeks has done. I think the 1922 committee, Charles Walker and Cheryl Gillen, have run that superbly and efficiently well. I'm very proud of actually, they've had, I think, a very swift and smooth process, dealt with very quickly in the interest of the country.
It's almost like there's no scheming in politics, the way you're painting it.
Sorry, say that again, Kate?
It's almost like there's no scheming in politics, the way you're painting it.
I didn't go quite that far, but look, I think when people are assuming that there's some kind of conspiracy theory and things around how the votes have been done, I'm just saying to you, look, I was involved in the 2016 campaigns, and actually as a foot soldier, very much a junior member of the teams in earlier campaigns. And people often have ideas about what they think happens. And all I'm saying to you is my experience is that when you're one of those campaign teams, you want to get the maximum votes. The idea of moving votes around, it's not something I recognise from my experience. And I think those teams have been getting maximum votes they can for their candidates. And we now go out to the country and our two candidates will go and make their positive case to the rest of the country.
And the standout candidate in terms of votes from his fellow MPs, of course, has been Boris Johnson all the way through. He's maybe one of the most high-profile politicians in the country, perhaps just under the Prime Minister herself, because of his profile, who he is, his columns that he writes consistently in The Telegraph, and some of the things that he has said, very controversial things. We had Chuka Umunna on the show about half an hour ago, and this was his thoughts on Boris Johnson potentially being the next Prime Minister. Let's just have a listen, Brandon.
We're on the cusp of having Boris Johnson, a man who's come out with racist statements about black and Asian people, calling black people pickaninnies, having watermelon smiles, only, in the last 12 months, comparing Muslim women to letterboxes, on the cusp of becoming the Prime Minister of our country.
He has a point, doesn't he? They're all things that we've seen Boris Johnson put down in print. They're things that we've heard Boris Johnson say. Are you comfortable with those things that he said in the past?
Oh, look, we've had conversations about this over the last year. I'm not going to comment on particular cases we've had as a party, but what I would say, more directly to the point Chuka made, I think Boris himself answers very well at his launch where he made the point, and I think it is quite right, that people want us to be very clear, use a language that people understand and not hide behind some of the political language we all sometimes see. People do use colourful language. There's that very fine line between free speech.
But there's colourful and then there's racist, Brandon, and as Chuka's pointed out, this was racist. What he's saying there, the images he's painting.
Well, Ben, I have to say that there was an independent-led investigation into some of those issues, which found that that was not the case. I'm not going to comment any further on that after an independent investigation has come to that conclusion. But over the next few weeks, people around the country will get a chance to hear from the candidates directly and what they're going to be voting on. I appreciate many opposition MPs will be very fearful of both of our candidates who've got great qualities, great abilities to lead our country in the future, and we'll be making the case for that over the next few weeks.
One of the things that was brought up in one of the debates by Sajid Javid was he got the other four contenders at the time to agree to an independent inquiry into Islamophobia within the Tory party. All four of them agreed. They said that should happen. They all absolutely affirmed that that's one thing that they would pursue were they to become Prime Minister or leader of the party. Is that something that you are taking forward from when Sajid Javid mentioned it in that debate?
Well, first of all, we've already got the ACR now looking at the situation. We're working with them. They are absolutely independent. Obviously, the new leader will take a view about what they want to do as they go forward. And we continue with the position we've already had and always had, which is we have absolutely zero tolerance. If we find a member of our party who's behaved in an inappropriate way, whatever that is, whether it's anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, any form of bullying, we will take action.
Do you regret that the two candidates are white, middle-aged men?
Look, we're very fortunate that right across our party, men, women, people of all different backgrounds, even people whose parents came from Shepherd's Bush and Dagenham like me, have the ability to have the chance to eventually become our Prime Minister and our leader of our party. And we've got to that final two excellent candidates. And as I say, I'm looking forward to that contest over the next few weeks.
OK, Brandon, it's always good to get your input. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.